Good evening and welcome to the June 2021 Watertown School District School Board meeting. Item 1.0, I would like to call a meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Moving to the consent agenda items, item 2.1, roll call. Please note all board members except for Mrs. Tammy Reiber are present. She is calling in remotely and is on the telephone, therefore for all items, I will call for a roll call vote. We will move from right to left, so we'll start with Scott, moving automatically to Ms. Moulton, and then to Mr. Stein. And then we will finish with Mrs. Reiber. Did you hear that okay, Mrs. Reiber?
Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the response.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do the roll call vote, and it will go Mr. Hardy, Ms. Moulton, Mr. Stein, and finish with you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so number 2.2, any conflicts of interest? Okay, I will just be abstaining from the vote on item 6.3.1. Item 2.3, review and approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. We've got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Aye. Aye.
And Mrs. Reiber. Mrs. Reiber, are you able to hear us?
Hey, I can hear you, but I can't hear anybody else.
Okay, we'll, as opposed to you being at the end, we will alternate, and I'll have you start. So when you hear me call for, when we have the motion and the second, then we'll start with your vote.
Okay.
Okay. You still have not, I'm sorry, so we just called for approval of the agenda. Do we have a vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is unanimous. The agenda has been approved. Moving to item 2.4, approve the minutes of the May 10th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Stein and a second by Ms. Moulton. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? I'm sorry, Ms.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes have been approved. Item 2.5, receive the financial reports for May 2021. Mrs. Clausen.
Thank you. In the general fund, revenue significantly exceeded the expenditures during the month as typical for May due to the receipt of the first major portion of the 2020 taxes payable in 2021. Federal revenue of $411,914 was received in relation to title funding. A transfer in of $1.1 million is in relation to the $250,000 temporary transfer in accommodation of the special education fund from the previous month. The anticipated transfer of $800,000 from capital outlay in support of costs, as well as the transfer in of unemployment escrow funds. The transfer of unemployment escrow funds was a recommendation by the auditors during our most recent audit to align with governmental accounting standards. In preparation of this transfer, unemployment claims were budgeted and allocated out of the appropriate funds of general and LATC this fiscal year. The ending cash position of the general fund reflects an increase when compared to the prior 2 years. Capital outlay in special education received revenue consistent of May property taxes along with interest income. Expenditures in capital outlay included the transfer out of $800,000 to accommodate the budgeted anticipation of support to the general fund. Please note that the transfer was originally budgeted at $1.2 million. However, due to the coronavirus relief federal funding received during the fiscal year, the necessary support decreased by $400,000. Special education received federal revenue related to IDEA 611. With a significant tax payment and federal sources of revenue, the temporary transfer from the general fund of $250,000 was able to be transferred back. This fund's ending cash position remains relatively consistent with that of the prior year, and it is anticipated to not have to use funds as budgeted for under general fund to support this fund. Lake Area Technical College received several different revenue sources related to the operation of the summer semester. The transfer in of $60,000 is the closing out of unemployment to the regular operations of the district. An anticipated payment of $523,000 to accommodate the reimbursement of 2020 legislative funds is noted for the month of June. This month's expenditures significantly exceeded the revenue, and the ending cash position of this fund will increase as we near fiscal year end. LATC Bookstore had moderate sales and expenditures during the month as typical for May. This fund's ending cash position is relatively similar to the prior year operation. LATC Food Service received a welcome federal payment of $188,115 supported and accommodated by LATC CARES 3. The federal payment is in support of lost revenue as identified through the operation during the pandemic. The ending cash position of this fund shows a significant increase due to the federal accommodation. As the operation moves into a regular operating year, we will continue to monitor closely with the goal to operate a fiscally sound program. Within the operation of the K-12 enterprise funds, the Nutrition Service Fund received a significant payment of federal revenue as associated under the SSO operation of providing free meals to students. The ending cash balance in this fund continues to increase. Driver's education saw increased activity during the month of May in relation to the 2021 driver's education program, with note that the expenditures accommodating the summer program will take place in June. Please note that trust and agency accounts have changed their fund name to custodial funds. Through an update to the Governmental Accounting Standards, GASB 86, this is a required identifier. Please note that we are also in the process of evaluating all accounts to be sure that they align with the updated standards of funds being accommodated under a custodial account. This update will take place in June, and a transfer into the regular operation of general fund operations is anticipated. It is also anticipated that a budget amendment to the FY22 preliminary budget will be necessary to accommodate certain operations that are no longer to be considered as trust and agency or custodial funds. I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move to item 2.6, student and staff recognition.
Great, thank you. I do have one big recognition that I would like to read. The State Library recognizes our 21st century school libraries. And I'll just read from the press release here. The South Dakota State Library has announced the 2021 recipients of the 21st Century School Library Award. The 21st Century School Library Award recognizes school libraries as effective, enhanced, or exemplary based on performance in 3 areas. Place, which refers to the learning environment, both physical and online, programming, and the professional. Applicants conduct a self-assessment and provide evidence of their ability to meet South Dakota's guidelines for school libraries. And this award status is valid for a 3-year period. And I'm pleased to announce that the Watertown High School Library is one of 13 schools that received an exemplary award. And that is our librarian, high school librarian Chris O'Brien and high school principal Brad Bransrud. So congratulations to the Watertown High School Library.
Can I add something to that? Yeah. Since that award has started, we've received it every 3 years. So we've always been at the top. Matter of fact, we're one of the top high school research libraries in the state. So congratulations.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Okay, we have discussion items for LATC. Is there anyone here to speak on any agenda or non-agenda items from the public on Lake Area Technical College? All right. Then moving to item 4.0, the action items for Lake Area Technical College. We have personnel. Item 4.1.1. Welcome, President Cartney.
Thank you, ma'am. It is with admiration, sadness, and gratitude that we request your approval of the retirement of Charlene Kruger. Charlene has been with Lake Area Technical College since August of 1968. That's almost 53 years of dedicated service. A 1968 graduate of Watertown High School, Charlene accepted the position with Lake Area Vocational Technical School in that following August and has been there ever since. Charlene has two daughters who also teach. One is in the Watertown Middle School, and the other is in the Omaha, Nebraska school system. Her husband, Elmer Kruger, has 4 children who live in Watertown, Twin Brooks, Sioux Falls, and Minneapolis, and they together have 12 grandchildren. We do have one special item as part of her retirement request, and that is her chair. It's been with her for 53 years. It's been recovered once, welded 3 times, and gets a little shot of WD-40 every now and then. It does have a hard back seat and back, and nothing like those nice curvy chairs we have today. But she requests that be included in her retirement request. Charlene emailed me a note that said, "I thank you for the best times of my life. Most of those have been here at LATC. I've met a lot of people and have seen it grow to a wonderful place it is for our students to attend and get a career." We thank Charlene for her as being the longest serving full-time employee of Lake Area Technical College, and we salute her 50 years of service to this community. We request your approval of her retirement request.
Before we even vote, I think that deserves a standing ovation. 53 years. She might not be able to see all of us, but I definitely award 53 years of service. So on that note, is there a motion to approve the retirement?
I'll make the motion to approve the retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Stein, a second by Mr. Hardy. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, looking for a vote. We'll start with Mrs. Reiber.
Aye.
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 Okay, we have board approval of this retirement. Thank you very much for your service, Mrs. Kruger. Moving on to item 4.1.2, resignations.
Yes, ma'am. We request your approval of the 6 resignations as presented.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Mrs. Reiber? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
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 Okay, all are in favor of the resignations, so that is approved. Item 4.1.3, contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, ma'am. You have before you a list of contract recommendations and addendums that are fairly typical for this time of year. We do have some Higher Learning Commission Assessment Academy work that we're doing, and you also note a number of the adjuncts for this summer semester as we have 550 students on campus. We request your approval of those contract recommendations and addendums.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, moving to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 Okay, that vote is unanimous. Item 4.1.3 has been approved. Moving to discussion items. I'm sorry, thank you, President Cartney.
Thank you, ma'am.
Moving to discussion items for 14.4, item 5.1. Is there anyone here to speak on agenda or non-agenda items from the public for the Watertown School District? All right, seeing none. Moving to the Northeast Technical High School report. Dr. Danielson.
Thank you. We did not have a superintendent's meeting in June, and just a note, the meeting, which is typically the third Wednesday, is actually the fourth Wednesday in June, so June 23rd. And we have our budget hearing at 5:30 ahead of our regular 5:45 PM start at the Northeast Tech Building.
Okay, that is noted. Item 5.3, strategic plan update. Dr. Danielson.
Thank you. Mr. Stacy has the updated dashboard up on the screen. And a big thank you. We had faculty, staff, work groups. We had community work groups on this. This was first brought as a draft to the April 26th school board budget meeting. Since that time, we have run it through multiple faculty committees and administrative committees to get to this point. And so I'm just going to update the board on the dashboard. And we did make some changes with this three-year plan. This would be a three-year plan covering the 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24 school years. And so on, we did confirm through the process to keep the 6 areas, indicator areas, and those are school safety, fiscal health, facility planning, relationships and communication, student achievement, and staff development. And our updated dashboard includes a goal column, the accomplishments, which would be what we've done in the last 3 years on this, and then our in progress and planned actions are those things that are either ongoing right now in the works or planned to be done here in the next year. And then those future and emergent needs would be things that are happening as we move forward that we would like to consider. So the things I want to highlight out of each categories, well, I'll read the goal statement and then give you a couple of highlights that I think that maybe for the public would be good just to know that's going on. So under the school safety goal, optimize facilities and programs to support the safety needs of our students and staff. And a reminder, this was actually added with our last rendition 3 years ago and was moved to the top by the board, feeling like when we went through the process last time, that was something that not only needed to be added to the plan, but take the forefront that we took that piece of the strategic plan very seriously. Since that time, we do have, we've every year had a district safety committee. We've updated our SEL team and a crisis response plan. We have the vestibule concepts, which is the buzzer system, and we kind of put this under last year, but when we did our return to learn plans, those were part of that. And just a couple of things that I thought would be good highlights under the in progress and planned actions. One is the badging system. So when we return in the fall, we will have what we would call an active badge, so that employees would have a badge. They already do have a badge, but this next year's badge would be active, meaning there would be card swipes on the doors at the buildings so that we can then program those for access for who needs them. So that is something that will be implemented. It should be ready for sure at the high school, and the rest of it, I say that, that we want to have them ready for the school year, but as we've seen in the last couple of years as far as parts acquisition, that sometimes the best laid plans there. And then another highlight under that, define K-12 alternative education services and recommend a programming model. So we have been looking at our K-12 alternative education and are going to take a deeper dive. That has been part of our school safety committee work already this past year, and we want to take a deeper dive with that committee and explore what our K-12 alternative education programming looks like, complete with the location of it, the curriculum in it, and the staffing of it. So that's under the school safety domain or indicator. Next is the fiscal health, and the goal of the fiscal health: improve the efficiency to maximize funds to meet student and staff needs while maintaining reserves at 15% and above all for all categories of funding. I think the key word in that goal that we added this time is the word efficiency. So not just are we at the 15%, but the efficiency with which we use our funds, and take a look at how we're using that money to stay above 15% in our reserves. You can see under the accomplishments, we have maintained that above 15%. One of the things that has been a hallmark here is the health of our self-insurance fund, in that our insurance premiums have remained steady, have seen no increase. And then, of course, in this category, as Ms. Clausen mentioned earlier, we've had all the different renditions of CARES funding, so that has caused some, different uses of funds and money. And then a couple of highlights under the fiscal health. We are going to look at reviewing the job descriptions, considering differentiated pay for paraprofessional positions. That is something that we're working on the next year. And then carefully monitoring the capital outlay usage and special education fund. And the reason those are on there is because both of those are tied to the general fund, in that if our special education fund is in need of funding, we can transfer out from the general fund into that. And if our general fund needs money, we can take a certain percentage out of the capital outlay. So they're really all kind of tied together, and we want to make sure we're monitoring that. And then just a future need there is the idea of establishing a better look at building-specific replacement and equipment cycles. The facility planning. The goal of the facility planning is to maintain adequate facilities to support the educational needs of students and staff. Right now, we have a high school remodel underway. We have another summer coming up, and then a school year, and then finish up the summer of '22. That's a big one there as an accomplishment. That is going. And so under our planned actions, complete facility review, including academic activities and athletic facilities. Right now, Co-op Architects has begun that. They had a walkthrough in May prior to the school year ending, where they are taking a look at the different facilities. That does include Northeast Tech, which is a part of our building plan. And so that we're looking for them to kind of have a report for us this fall. And then a couple other things that, a couple other sites that we're just trying to figure out long-term what we're going to do with them is the usage of the Garfield Learning Center and the PDC. Fourth indicator, relationships and communication. Develop positive relationship with staff, students, board, parents, community. Maintain effective internal and external communications. We use that, we had updated our communication system here a couple years ago, and that really came into handy with the COVID notifications that we had to have. Another thing that has been done that has been, well received is the absence management software to help us with substitute teachers. I think that's been a good hallmark here we've done. And under the in progress and planned actions taking place this summer is revising the district website. That'll be done most likely in July, so that we have the updated website for the fall when we return. And then one thing that we kept kind of from our COVID changes is the pre-service conferences with each family in K-12. We did that after we didn't have in-person school from March through May in the previous school year. We put that in to kind of welcome people back, reorientate them, and that was well received that we actually built that into our calendar. So those are a couple things there that stick out. And then, we have under the future emergent needs, exploring options for district-wide staff connections. So looking at the internal piece, my apologies there on my page turn. The fifth indicator is student achievement. Our goal is to enhance offerings to enable all students to succeed. We have kept that goal of 100% graduation rate. Under the accomplishments, and this was probably due to the COVID and the hybrid learning, was one-to-one devices, K-12. They don't all go home, but we do have enough devices for all students in K-12. And We did put back in the math summer school, and we've been able to enhance our summer school offerings actually this summer thanks to some of the ESSER and CARES funding. So some of the in-progress planned actions, implement and train for the NWA MAPS assessments. That would be something that would be able to be noted when Mr. Stacy does the assessment report in the fall. That takes the place of a program we have been using for 3 years, which was called Mastery Connect. And so that is going on. And so we're also, while we're doing that, we're working to align the district screening and assessments. And then one note for high school folks, looking at reviewing the advisory implementation at Watertown High School. Under future and emergent needs, one highlight there, train staff in equitable grading practices for ELL students and other subgroups. And then the final indicator is staff development. And our goal under there is to hire and retain highly qualified staff and provide ongoing opportunities for training and professional development. Accomplishment there, we have a renewed focus on the de-escalation of behaviors. This year we kind of reviewed our Boys Town training with our staff, and then some of them that hit up is the bus driver shortage. We did address that, and one thing that already started this spring as people left was an improved exit survey process. In progress and planned actions, a couple from there, formed a staff development advisory committee. We actually have met with them twice. They finished up work last Thursday. We had a good meeting and kind of set our focus for next school year. We accomplished that and then plan to utilize them again as the school year goes on. And then develop classified staff trainings based on needs. And so part of that group really looked at what do we need to do with our classified staff. That came up through the strategic planning process. And for future and emergent needs, we are going to look at, we've revised the professional growth rubric for our classroom teachers, but we still have others to address through that, such as like our specialty positions like counselors, school nurse, if we, anything that's not a traditional classroom role. So there's a few of the highlights of the updated strategic plan. I would answer any questions, or if there's somebody else in the room that can help us out if we have a question, be happy to answer those.
Are there questions from the board?
What was your comment about Mastery Connect?
We utilize Mastery Connect for 3 years, and we are transitioning to the NWA MAPS testing for reading, math, and science.
Dr. Danielson, with the Staff Development Advisory Group, how is that composed?
Well, when Mrs. Walker sent out her staff development survey towards the end of the year, we actually asked for, one of the questions asked on the survey was, would you be willing to serve on an advisory committee? And we had 50-ish staff members, and obviously that was a little too large to accomplish anything, so we whittled that down to low 20s and tried to hit buildings, so all buildings were represented, and then a lot of those specialty groups so that we could have input based off of, all the different people that might need, including classified representation.
Does anyone else have further questions?
And we will be
And-
asking for approval later then in the action.
Okay. Mrs. Reiber, do you have any questions regarding the dashboard?
No, I don't.
Okay. Then we'll move forward to the first readings of policies, item 5.4. Mr. Stacy.
I'll take the first one.
Oh, okay. Dr. Danielson, 5.4.1.
Yes, I'll
FF.
take the first one.
Okay.
When Lake Area Technical Institute changed their name to Lake Area Technical College this year, we do have one policy that actually had the name Lake Area Technical Institute in the title of the policy. So we are bringing forward policy FF for a first reading to change that from naming of facilities Lake Area Technical Institute to Lake Area Technical College. We also have 3 other policies that we will do nothing but just update institute to college in the portion of the policy, so it's not in the title, and I wanted to note that. Policy DI, fiscal accounting and reporting, policy DKC, incidental accounts, and policy GAA, evaluation policy and procedures. Those will just be updated only to change institute to college. But this one was brought forward because of the title changing.
All right, is there a motion?
Nope, this first
Oh,
reading.
just
So
first
We
reading.
will
Okay.
bring these back to the July meeting for your approval as
Sure.
a second reading, and they will be posted on the website for public comment.
All right, so then we'll move to item 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 5, if you want to take those, Mr. Stacy.
Yep. The next policy is our library materials selection and adoption. It's been a few years since we have reviewed this policy, and through further discussion with Chris O'Brien, our high school library, for us to stay eligible for grant opportunities, we needed to add a mission statement. And then we also, at the same time, then just reviewed the policy and made a few changes within the policy. And so that is why we are bringing this forth to you for the first reading. Any questions about library material selection and adoption?
I have a grammar cleanup.
Okay?
It's the first red paragraph.
Yep.
He starts out to be enthusiastic and well-rounded readers. Then you should add to be effective and ethical users of information. And then add to be successful and enlightened citizens. Parallel structure.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. And then we have the grading policy. The grading policy is that we have been doing standard-based report cards for grades kindergarten through grade 2 for a few years now, and for the last 2 years we have been piloting standard-based report cards in grades 3 and 4, and we have received positive feedback from not only parents but also staff on the communication and the proficiency of these students, identifying how the students are doing compared to the standards, the state standards. And so with that, we are bringing forth to add grades 3 and 4 to standard-based report card.
So this is a first reading, correct?
This is the first
And then
reading.
the next meeting will be voted on
Yes.
for acceptance?
Yep.
I've voiced this in the past, my reservations about standard basing. Teachers used to teach from a wide, deep well of knowledge, but too easily standard-based education allows the mindset that it is not something, if something is not in the standard, it cannot be taught. Standards become a closed box. I've seen it happen firsthand in our own district. Number one, it limits education, removes the incentive to teach children knowledge beyond the standards, creates a loss of autonomy for teachers to expand students' knowledge, and creates a loss of local control. Number two, facilitates data mining, turns children into simply sources of data. Number three, turns teachers into collectors of data rather than teachers of knowledge. Every standard has to be measured, quantified, tested, recorded. It's time-consuming. Number four, limits students' desire to achieve. Report card grades in only 3 levels: below proficiency, approaching proficiency, and at proficiency. No measure is given or reported or expected for students to excel or to achieve higher. To do just good enough encourages students to stop trying. Number 5, loss of knowledge. Probably the worst part. Whole bodies of knowledge are lost because that knowledge is not expanded and given to students. Limits individuality and freedom of information. Finally, parents and children who move up to the upper grade levels that use A, B, C, and D often are mystified that their student now is only receiving B's or C's when they were at proficient for the lower grades. Becomes confusing. So I believe it stifles knowledge and the freedom to learn. I ask that my comments be added to the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then our next policy is our homeless policy. And we've been, we had a federal programs review this year, and the next two policies is a result of that. But we've been asked to add the definition of homeless, and then also the dispute resolution process for that policy. And so that's been added to the homeless student policy. Any questions about that? Comments? Okay. And then our last policy is the citizen concerns about federal programs. And what we did there is we are taking out the No Child Left Behind reference and then just adding just this one little, finishing out the sentence there on federal rule and regulations. Okay? Any questions or comments about citizen concerns about federal programs? Okay, these will be put on our website for people to have input.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, item 5.5, consider Title I comparability compliance procedure. Mrs. Clausen.
Thank you. The Title I Comparability Compliance Procedure is a federal requirement of the Title I program intended to ensure that federal funds increase rather than replace existing state and local funds. A school district must demonstrate that it uses state and local funds to provide services in Title I schools that, taken as a whole, are at least comparable to the services provided in schools that are not receiving Title I funds. The comparability requirement under the federal program requires that we adopt a formal procedure to ensure equivalence among schools in teachers, administrators, and other staff, and to ensure equivalence among schools in the provisions of curriculum materials and instructional supplies. It is recommended to establish the Title I comparability compliance procedure as noted.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving to the action items, 14.4.
I will need action on the procedure, because that's not a policy.
Okay,
Thank you.
so should that be moved down to an action item?
Yes.
Yes.
So we need to,
We won't have to amend the agenda. We will just take note that we took action on this procedure.
okay. So do it right now.
Yes, I would do it at this point.
Okay.
And then we'll just note that we took action on the procedure.
Okay. So we are changing, and I'm looking for a motion to allow the Title I comparability compliance procedure. Is there a motion?
I so move that we accept the procedure for compliance as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber.
Aye.
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 All right. That motion and second, that has passed. And we will make note that that was moved to an action item. Moving to item 6.1, approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the bills. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 All right, the 6.1 has been approved. Moving to 6.2, personnel, 6.2.1, resignations.
Yes, for resignations, I have 10 classified, 6 certified, and 1 activity pending suitable replacement for you to consider.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the resignations.
All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the resignations? Okay, seeing none, moving to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Okay, the resignations have been approved as stated. Item 6.2.2, contract recommendations and addendums.
Yeah, just something to clarify is that we've got a national certified person that we're going to do a stipend from this school year, and then also department chairs from this past school year and state mentoring from this past school year that we're bringing forth for you to approve. The rest of these are hirings for next year, coaching for next year, and then summer work and summer curriculum.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the contract recommendations and addendums. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, moving to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 6.2.2 has been approved. Item 6.2.3, authority to hire.
Yes, we are bringing forth an authority to hire for a full-time custodian at the high school. And the reasoning for that is the additional floor space at the high school, and then also we have added a third lunch. And so this person during the school year would work from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then during the summer months, they would work during the school day.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the authority to hire.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay. We will move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Okay. Item 6.2.3 has been approved. Moving to property, item 6.3, 6.3.1, consider quotes for physical therapy services.
Yes. It is recommended to enter into a 3-year contract with Northeast Physical Therapy for the providing of physical therapy services with notation that either party may terminate the contract upon a 60-day written notice to the other party. This recommendation comes with notation that although the per unit cost is lower through Big Stone Therapies at $17.50 per unit, Northeast Physical Therapy at a rate of $18.75 per unit noted that they will not charge for mileage or travel time, report and IEP goal writing, attendance at staff meetings, notified student absences, and an accompaniment for assisting with adaptive equipment. Please consider the contract for PT services with Northeast Physical Therapy.
Is there a motion?
I move we consider and accept the quote from Northeast Physical Therapy as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay. Moving to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Okay, item 6.3.1 has been approved. Item 6.3.2, authorization to seek bids for commons furniture.
The requested authority to bid furniture is to accommodate the furniture needs of the high school commons area. The anticipated budget to accommodate the needs is at $150,000, and through federal regulations of using school nutrition funds, we are hopeful to accommodate the allocation with 70% of school nutrition funds and the remaining to be budgeted out of the high school renovation furniture allocation in capital outlay.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve those bids for the commons.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, moving to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Item 6.3.2 has been approved. Item 6.4, consider the 2020-21 supplemental budget. Mrs. Clausen.
Yes, the proposed supplemental budget provides modifications to the 2021 budget to accommodate the increased expenditure allocations and offsets through identified revenue supports. In the general fund, the increase in expenditure allocations is to accommodate increased percentages to support Title I program administration, as well as increased allocated support to equitably support private schools as per the title federal requirements. This $30,440 increase in expenditure is offset through Title I federal revenue. An increase of $21,500 is to account for transfers of custodial funds that are required to be supported under general operation as noted under Governmental Accounting Standards, GASB 84. This increased allocation is directly offset through the transfer in of said custodial funds. An accommodation of cash on hand in the amount of $15,000 is to support an increase in expenditures identified under stadium repairs. Capital outlay is to receive a $75,000 reallocation of expenditures from local support to federal support under ESSER 2 in support of the automatic door lock systems as an identifiable project with CARES federal support. The enterprise funds of K-12 nutrition services, concessions, driver's education, LATC daycare, bookstore, and LATC nutrition services are all to receive expenditure allocations as a direct requirement of Governmental Accounting Standard, GASB 68. To support a non-cash expenditure identifiable as the enterprise allocation to support SDRS pension-related liabilities. These expenditures are offset with use of cash on hand, with notation that this supplement to the budget does not directly affect cash on hand, as it is a non-cash expenditure. K-12 nutrition service is to receive an accommodation to the expenditure of early retirement expense to fund the early retirement payment of the director. Driver's education is noted to receive an accommodation of $41,570 to support the accommodation of 2 years of classes taking place in FY21. Lake Area Technical College to increase expenditures of $639,000 as offset through CARES 2 federal accommodations, as well as other expenditure increases to accommodate increases in needs and supports of $391,620 as identified under use of cash on hand. Please note that $131,600 of identifiable use of cash on hand is a reallocation of GOED federal expenditures to support the purchase of a metal 3D printer and supported by GOED funding. Lake Area Technical College Bookstore has a significant increase as noted under resale of technology equipment to accommodate technology ordered in advance for FY22 due to the foreseen COVID delays. This accommodation will be offset with a decrease to expenditures in FY22 as they will be accounted for this fiscal year when the inventory arrives. Student financial aid is to receive a significant supplement to the budget with $1.1 million in payments made to students as supported by CARES federal funding. I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there questions regarding the supplemental budget? Okay. Thank you. We're going to approve that? We will, okay. So I need a motion to approve the supplemental budget for 2020-2021.
Move to approve this supplemental budget.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Second. Are there comments, questions? Okay, thank you for your work on that. Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Item 6.4 has been approved. Item 6.5, approval of special education comprehensive plan.
Thank you. This is our annual request. We need to fill out the comprehensive plan for special education in order to access our federal funding for this programming. And so we are asking for your approval of this plan.
Is there a motion?
I move approval of the special education comprehensive plan as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the special education comprehensive plan. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Okay, that 6.5 has been approved. Item 6.6, consider approval of the strategic plan.
Yes, as presented earlier, we are recommending your approval for the three-year strategic plan as presented.
Is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve the strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the strategic plan?
I just would like to strongly emphasize the work to come and to be done on alternative ed, particularly at middle school, high school level, and perhaps other levels as needed. Also, I would strongly emphasize, as previously discussed at our strategic meeting, class sizes at the middle school and the high school need to be reduced considerably. Whether we have to pull teachers who are in non-teaching positions to handle that, we need to look at some alternative answers.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 6.6 has been approved. Item 6.7, student enrollment requests. Dr. Danielson.
Yes, we have 9 open enrollments.
Is there a motion to approve the open enrollments?
Make the motion to approve the open enrollments.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
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 Item 6.7.1 has been approved. Item 6.7.2, 132810s.
And we have 0 of those for you tonight.
Okay. Moving to the communications, item 7.0, 7.1, administrative reports. Dr. Danielson.
Yes, tomorrow is school board election. We have 3 candidates for 2 open spots. That will be in conjunction with the city election tomorrow and the Watertown Civic Arena. And that is 7 to 7. Also, tomorrow at the high school is the second dose for the COVID vaccine for students. There was a first dose in May for those families that opted for that. That will be at the auxiliary gym from 1 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and those families should use the east side entrance for that, so we are not confused between the two, the voting and the vaccination. So there's no correlation whatsoever for those 2 events going on. And then just a commendation, I see Mrs. Walker sitting in the audience. Our new admin area is fully being utilized this summer. She is in there every day with our grade level meetings and our curriculum work. And that, the importance of that work cannot be understated. So I just thought I'd offer some appreciation for the work she's already doing here in June, because pretty much every day is booked solid. But the addition of that has been welcome, and our staff has fully taken note of the facilities they're in now for that work. So.
Okay. Are there any Things to report to the student or superintendent from the board. Okay, thank you. Moving to item 8.0, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Reiber?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.